We've come to see that the body isn't just a physical object. It has intention and creates meaning, even in functions like sexuality. In the chapter covered in this video, titled The Body as Expression in Speech, Merleau-Ponty again challenges the long-standing philosophical separation between body and mind by, this time, showing that speech is not merely a tool used by a thinking subject, but a bodily act whereby meaning is actively formed and expressed. Drawing on pathological cases like aphasia and reflecting on ordinary experiences of speaking and understanding, he argues that speech is neither a mechanical function nor the mere expression of preformed ideas. Instead, it is a bodily gesture that creates meaning in the very act of speaking. And as such, Merleau-Ponty's analysis places language at the heart of human experience, not as an afterthought to reason, but as a constitutive act of our being. As done throughout this work, Merleau-Ponty examines the competing contributions of both empiricist and intellectualist approaches to language while highlighting the common fault in both. For empiricism, language is reduced to conditioned responses or habitual associations such that words are triggered like reflexes. Intellectualism, on the other hand, treats words as mere signs that express fully formed ideas, like labels added after the fact. In both views, words are seen as meaningless in themselves, either mechanical reactions or empty vessels for thought. Merleau-Ponty refuses this by insisting that words have meaning not because they represent prior ideas, but because they generate meaning in the act of speaking. Speech is not the expression of a thought already formed, but a gesture that brings thought into being and an act of meaning-making, not mere translation of prior thought. Common sense tells us that we think first and then put those thoughts into words. But Merleau-Ponty challenges this. Often, we only come to know what we are thinking as we speak. Speaking and writing then help us to clarify thought, and the act of articulation is itself the form of thought. This is especially true in how we come to understand objects. Naming is not just labeling something we already know, it is part of the recognition process. For children in particular, a thing becomes truly known when it is named. As Merleau-Ponty puts it, the name is the essence of the thing and resides in it on the same footing as its color and its form. For those who follow my Lacan series, we can clearly see a resonance of thought as Lacan frequently highlights the creative function of speech. What makes psychoanalysis as a practice so effective is the ability to generate new meanings through speech, especially when certain signifiers have, up to that point, been repressed from overt discourse. Yet, unlike Lacan, Merleau-Ponty emphasizes the embodied nature of speech. And while we can certainly talk about what role the body plays for language in Lacan, it is not the same as what we're talking about here with Merleau-Ponty. For he thinks that just as we don't visualize each step before walking, we don't visualize words before speaking. Speech arises out of our embodied familiarity with language. Memory, too, is bodily. To recall a word or experience is not to replay a mental image, but to reenact a bodily orientation. The past is brought into the present through a gesture, a rhythm, a style. Communication, then, is not the exchange of abstract ideas, but a mutual enactment of meaning grounded in our embodied familiarity with the world and with each other. Speech is also the medium through which the body relates to time. Our lived orientation toward the world is not fixed, but folds past meanings into present gestures. This bodily memory, what Merleau-Ponty calls a kind of motor intentionality, grounds our ability to speak meaningfully, to remember, and to open ourselves up to new ways of being. Merleau-Ponty sees speech as a gesture whose meaning emerges in the shared world it helps to create. We don't understand other people's gestures by thinking about our own past experiences or by analyzing them intellectually. Instead, we immediately recognize the meaning of a gesture, like anger or affection, because it is in the gesture itself. The gesture doesn't just point to anger, it is anger made visible. However, not all gestures are immediately intelligible. For example, we often don't understand the behavior of animals, or people from very different cultures, or children who witness adult actions they don't have the capacity to make sense of quite yet. We only recognize meaning in gestures when those gestures fit with something we're already capable of doing or feeling ourselves. Communication happens when our body joins in with the meaning expressed by the other person's gestures, like a shared rhythm or movement. And this insight extends to perception. When we see a fireplace, we don't first analyze visual data. We immediately perceive it as a whole. Our body grasps the object in its meaning. Likewise, we understand others' gestures by participating in their expressive world, not by observing from outside. So just as we grasp the meaning of objects through our body, we understand other people through our bodily interaction with their gestures. Meaning isn't hidden behind words or movements, it's present in them, and we take it in by participating with our whole selves, not just with our minds. We often assume that language is arbitrary, like calling a table just because we agreed to it. But Merleau-Ponty says that that's too simplistic. Just like a smile can be joy, not just a symbol of it, the sound, rhythm, and emotion in a word are part of its meaning. Words, he says, sing the world, expressing its emotional essence, not just naming its parts. Like gestures, words carry meaning within themselves. They aren't just signs pointing to something else. When we speak, we're not just using symbols, we're shaping and expressing our experience. And this explains why translation is always imperfect. Different languages express different ways of inhabiting the world. Even emotional expression is culturally shaped. Anger in Japan looks different from anger in the West. And this difference is not superficial, it reflects different ways of being angry. Thus, human expression is always both natural and cultural. Speech is one form of this broader capacity to create meaning through bodily engagement with the world, adding to the natural in ways that makes this activity irreducible to it. As Merleau-Ponty writes, speech is the surplus of our existence over natural being. While remaining one expressive form among others, speech is unique in that it can sediment, be reused, and build cultural worlds. Unlike gestures or music, speech can talk about itself. Writers speak to a shared world. Philosophers pursue truth through language. For Merleau-Ponty, this gives speech a privileged role in human communication. There are forms of art that are reflexive, but what distinguishes language is the historical tendency to treat its reflexivity as a route to some kind of ultimate language, a final, pure mode of expression. Artistic reflexivity, by contrast, seldom aims at such culmination. It always remains open-ended, expressive, and experimental. Despite this tendency to enclose language within totalizing projects, Merleau-Ponty insists that its privilege still rests in its bodily origin. True speech, what he calls authentic speech, is not about repeating established meanings or arriving at a final meaning. It is about bringing new meanings into being. Like a gesture that transforms perception, authentic speech opens a new horizon of understanding. He captures this distinction through the difference between parole parlante, the speaking word, and parole parlée, the spoken word. The former is creative and spontaneous, the act of expression itself. The latter is habitual, drawing on sedimented meanings. Language lives only insofar as it is renewed through speaking. Merleau-Ponty draws on cases of aphasia to show that speech is not just a physical skill or a vehicle for thought. In color naming amnesia, for instance, the problem is not merely one of vocabulary. Patients struggle to group colors meaningfully. Their perception is fragmented. They can't apprehend the essence of blue. This indicates that speech and thought are both rooted in a deeper bodily orientation to the world. Language fails not because words are forgotten, but because the ways of experiencing the world have been disrupted. Meaning does not arrive from outside the world, it emerges within it, a part of the lived structure of our engagement with the world. In some aphasias, patients retain grammar and vocabulary but cannot initiate meaningful speech. They can repeat phrases but lack the spontaneity to ask questions or express wonder. What is lost here then is not intelligence or motor ability, but the life of language, its openness, its power to create. These pathologies illustrate that language is not built from discrete mechanical functions, but rests on an integrated existential orientation, a mode of being that unites motility and intelligence. Speech is not a mechanical process, nor a translation of internal thought into sound. It is an act of expression that arises from our bodily engagement with the world. Speaking is not something we do to thought. It is how we think, how we relate, and how we are. In his reflections on Cézanne, Merleau-Ponty observes that a face or a tablecloth comes to life not through description, but through the careful composition of color and form. Likewise, speech does not represent meaning, it brings it forth. Our bodies do not simply express a pre-existing soul, they are the very site where meaning appears. The body, like the world it inhabits, is all there. This rediscovery of the body challenges the Cartesian tradition. The body is not a machine inhabited by a mind. It is a living subject that perceives, speaks, and creates meaning. In speech, we overcome the classical dualisms of inner and outer, body and mind, self and world. We discover not an object among others, but a being who expresses, and in that expression reveals a world that is always still forming. And establishing this point opens the path to part 2 of this work titled The World as Perceived. If we begin with the lived body, we do not reduce the world to a private projection. We recover a pre-objective world that is shared precisely because all embodied subjects participate in the same style of perceptual openness. The world as perceived is then neither the physicist's universe nor a mental picture, but the practical horizon in which bodies move and meanings are first forged. Thank you for watching this all the way to the end. If you got something out of this video and want to support this work, you can do so in several ways by liking this video, sharing it with others. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to support this work financially, you can do so through the Super Thanks button here on YouTube, or you can be an ongoing contributor over on Patreon, where I offer video transcripts, unedited materials, and prioritize questions and comments here on YouTube. The link is below. I would like to thank the following for already supporting this work over on Patreon. And until next time, be well.